What's up, everybody, and welcome to Catholic Girl on the Radio. This is your host, Rita, and today we are going to go through John chapter 1, verses 43 to 51. So let's do this. All right, so the Gospel of John tells us, the following day, Jesus wanted to go to Galilee, and he found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathaniel and said to him, "We have found him whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." And Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of the Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." Jesus saw Nathanael coming towards him and said of him, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom is no deceit." Nathanael said to him, "How do you know me?" Jesus answered and said to him, "Before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." Nathanael answered and said to him, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God, you are the King of Israel." Jesus answered and said to him, "Because I said to you, I saw you under the fig tree, do you believe? You will see greater things than these." And he said to him, "Most assuredly, I say to you, hereafter you shall see heaven open up and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise be to you, Lord Jesus Christ. So we're going to start a commentary from St. John Chrysostom, and this begins with when he talks to Philip saying, "Follow me," when Jesus Christ calls Philip to follow him. And he says, "Even through thoughtful seekers gain wisdom, as Proverbs 14:23 suggest, yet Christ's words suggest an even deeper truth. Those who seek will find." This is why it no longer surprises me how Philip followed Christ. Very interesting. Andrew believed after hearing the Baptist's testimony. Peter believed after Andrew spoke to him. But Philip, without hearing from anyone but Christ himself, obeyed immediately after hearing, "Follow me." He didn't hesitate to turn back. He didn't alienate himself, but rather he became a preacher himself, running to Nathanael to announce, "We have found the one Moses wrote about in the law, the one who foretold by the prophets." This is so interesting because these are like the little details that we tend to miss, or I tend to miss when I read these texts, is that how quickly did Philip follow him? How instantaneous it was, where Jesus kind of looked at him and he said, "Hey, come." And as soon as he did that, Philip recognized who Christ is. He recognized him immediately and went and told his friends. He went and told his community. And to me, it's the thought that they were having these conversations before. They were longing for him. They were looking for him. Now, going back to our saint, he says, notice Philip's thoughtful, intelligent study of Moses' writing and his eager expectation for the Messiah's arrival. Look at that. We're on the same page. His words, "We have found him," suggests he was actively seeking. Jesus began gathering followers only after some joined him voluntarily. This wisdom ensured that they stayed steadfast. If he had invited them too soon, they might have turned away. I think he knocks at our hearts often in so many different ways, and he kind of allows us to be exposed to him on a variety of different occasions, but he doesn't call us till a very specific moment in time. And that is something that we have to acknowledge and keep track of. Because if he had called us too soon, we would not be eager to commit to him. We would not persevere despite everything that is going on. And that's something to keep in our hearts, because the choice that we made, the commitment that we made, to Christ is a commitment that was voluntarily made and a decision that was not coerced. He didn't force Philip to follow him. Philip got up and followed him after waiting for so long, looking for so long. And I don't know why, like, this strikes in my head when we talk about marriage and commitment in those sense as well. It has to be voluntarily made for the right reason, freely, for relationships to persevere and to be steadfast. Now, going back to our commentary from St. John Chrysostom, he says, Philip, having grown up in Galilee, likely knew of Jesus more than the others did. After calling his first disciples, Jesus sought others and found Philip and Nathaniel. While Nathaniel's response isn't surprising, Jesus' fame had already spread throughout Syria. And this we see in Matthew 4:24. So Philip's belief was remarkable. He believed even before seeing any miracles, despite being from Galilee, a region with no reputation for producing prophets or anything remarkable. This shows Christ's power. He chose his finest disciples from an unfruitful land. Now, I want to say, I want to take it a little bit more, maybe from Nathaniel's point of view, because he was also from the same region, is that there wasn't anything good that was going to come out from being there. I don't know, sometimes we feel stuck in where we are. Sometimes we feel like how could this place be fruitful? Whether it's by location or by emotions or by relationships or by whatever the case is. And I just have this inkling right now that says Nathaniel felt that way about his region, about where he was. Can anything good come out of this place? What a rut. What a rut Nathaniel's in. But then he goes anyways, and he believes, and he's like, hey, you truly are the Son of Man. Continuing on, he says, Philip may have observed Peter and Andrew's faith, or heard John the Baptist's testimony, yet it is possible that Christ's very word stirred his heart. The gospel writer doesn't elaborate on these details, but Philip's village is mentioned to highlight how God often chooses the humble and the overlooked. But I also, to me, when I read that, I'm like, okay, well, they're from the same place. It's actually pretty cool. It's pretty cool to have that place have so much blessing in it. And how we can cultivate and create communities that are around us that also have Christ's blessing, and he can use everyone in that community. So when Philip told Nathanael about Jesus, he referred to him as the son of Joseph. This was a common belief, though not fully true. Nathanael, familiar with the scripture, knew that the Messiah was prophesied to come from Bethlehem. Hearing about Nazareth confused him. He wondered how this aligned with the prophecies. But Nathanael didn't accuse Philip of lying. Instead, he asked, can anything good come from Nazareth? In turn, Philip responded patiently, saying, come and see. He didn't argue, but invited Nathanael to experience Christ for himself. Confident that one encounter with Jesus would remove all doubts. I really love this because sometimes we tell people about Jesus and we try to convince them and we try to argue for him and we try to do these things, but truthfully, one encounter with him can change everything. And that's the best part. So we're going to continue on with the commentary, and this is again still with the commentary of St. John Chrysostom, and he says that Philip referred or referenced Moses and the prophets to make his announcement credible. Knowing this would resonate with Nathaniel, who was carefully discerning, as Christ himself later confirmed. Philip didn't hesitate to call Jesus the son of Joseph, since that was how many people commonly referred to him. I want to say that it's also because they're from a small town and everybody knows all the people that are there. Everyone knows your family, your friends, your parents, and so they refer to each other by that as well. And so when he said, "Oh, who is he?" "Oh, you know him. He's the son of Joseph, right? He's the guy that's from over there. You've seen him." And so our saint continues and he says, "How could Philip be so certain that this was the promised Messiah?" Very good question. What proof did he have? He hadn't witnessed any miracles yet. His conviction resembled Andrew's, who, after discovering the truth, couldn't fully explain it, but immediately led his brother to Jesus. This is striking to me because I think for the most part, the majority of us do not experience big, giant miracles. And yet we come to believe in him because of the encounters we have with him. And it's odd to say because what kind of encounter did they have? But then we ask the question, what kind of encounter do we have with Christ? How does he personalize his encounters with every single one of us? Enough for me to say, I don't need to see miracles for me to believe in you. But walking with him, we do end up seeing miracles when we end up doing the things that he does. That's what Philip did. He hadn't witnessed miracles yet. Andrew hadn't witnessed miracles yet either. The key word is yet. And you may not have witnessed major miracles yet, but continue walking with him. Have that conviction that he is the Son of God. He is who he says he is. He is the Messiah. And things will be different. Things will be better because you get to see him for who he really is. So we continue. Similarly, Philip didn't try to explain everything. Instead, he invited Nathaniel to see Jesus for himself, confident that once Nathaniel heard Jesus' words, he wouldn't turn away. Do we have that same confidence when we bring people to him? Or is it about us? Have we encountered people in our lives that walk away? And how does that make us feel? Is it a personal thing? Or do we know that they haven't truly encountered Christ and that we must augment the prayers and continue praying for those people? So now we're going to continue, and it says, although Nathaniel's questions may seem skeptical, which is, can anything good come out of this? It wasn't rooted in disbelief, but in careful study of the scriptures. Nathaniel knew from the prophecies that the Messiah would come from Bethlehem, the city of David. The prophets had declared it, out of Bethlehem shall come a ruler to shepherd my people Israel. So when Nathaniel heard that Jesus was from Nazareth, he was understandably confused. We often judge people by what we don't know, by what we think we know, but is not fully accurate. Little did Nathaniel know that Jesus was born in Bethlehem. And not only was he born in Bethlehem, he was from there. The whole concept is that they went back there to register because that's where they were from. But he had a label on him, and that label was Nazarene. So we have to be careful as well with us not to judge people based on what we think we know about them so that we can get the complete picture. However, Nathaniel didn't accuse Philip of lying or rejecting his message outright. Instead, he asked him a thoughtful question. Can anything good come from Nazareth? This phrasing shows humility and desire for clarity rather than hostility. His willingness to investigate further demonstrates both his commitment to the truth and his hope for the Messiah's coming. He suspected Philip may have misunderstood where Jesus was from, but didn't dismiss the possibility that Philip could be right. I feel like when you talk about Nathaniel and Philip, there was such a bond between them that he had to have trusted him. He had to have said, okay, well, I'm going to trust you on this one. Because of Philip's character, because of the things they've done together, because of the things they've talked about. Philip's response was equally wise and patient. He didn't argue or try to convince Nathaniel with words. He just said, come and see. And that is something very, very powerful as well. When Nathanael approached, Jesus commended him, saying, "Here is a true Israelite in whom there's no deceit." This shows that Jesus recognized Nathanael's impartiality and honesty, unlike others who had ulterior motives. Nathanael's doubt came from a sincere concern for the truth. The way he greeted him, it was just so interesting. Why would Jesus say that? I would look at him like, here's the true Israelite. This is almost like as the saint, it's a confirmation of who Nathaniel is and how honestly he thought after Christ and how honestly and diligently he waited for that Messiah, knowing that he's coming, knowing for that longing in his heart. And I wonder, when God looks at us, when Jesus looks at me, when he looks at you, does he say, here's a true Christian in whom there's no deceit? Or is my heart and my action and my soul full of deceit, full of lies? The Jews in general had also acknowledged the prophecy of Bethlehem when asked where the Messiah would be born. However, later, in their hostility towards God, or towards Christ, Jesus, they disregarded the knowledge, saying, "We don't know where he's from." Not true, right? Nathanael, by contrast, remained honest about his expectation. The prophets did refer to Jesus as Nazarene, not because he was born there, but because he was raised there and spent much of his life there. Jesus didn't immediately clarify to Nathanael that he was indeed born in Bethlehem, which would have been our argument, right? If I was going to say that claim a certain claim, then I would back it up and say, oh, by the way, this is where I'm from. But he didn't. He actually chose a more profound revelation, showing his divine knowledge by referring to their private conversation, a conversation that maybe Nathanael had with God, where no one else was there. Or maybe it was an event that took place in Nathanael's life, where he was under that fig tree. And no one could have known who wasn't there. The display of insight was far more convincing than merely stating his birthplace. This is so crazy. Is how many times do we come with God with a particular question? God, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? God, is this the right person for me? God, show me a sign of your existence. Show me a sign that this is different. And instead of answering the question as would be logical, he displays an insight that's far more convincing. He shows us something that touches our hearts truly if our hearts are actually open towards Christ. Otherwise, we don't get the answer. By revealing his supernatural awareness, Jesus demonstrated that he was far more than just a man. He was the Christ, and that is what he reveals to us as well. All right, so now we have commentary from Saint Augustine, and he says, And this is on verse 147. John 147 says, Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him and again said to him, Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there's no deceit. What does it mean for someone to be without deceit? Does it mean that Nathanael was without sin and had no need for spiritual healing? Well, certainly not. No one is born without the need for God's grace. And I want to add that no one lives life without the need of the heavenly physician, without needing to be fully healed. Deceit involves saying one thing while thinking or intending another. Nathanael was without deceit because though he was a sinner, he did not pretend to be righteous. Instead, he was honest about his faults. When Jesus praised him, it was for his sincerity, not because he was sinless. I'm reading this and I can't help but think of the story of St. Augustine or Augustine himself. It's like knowing the past of this man, you can see how this influenced him so much. When you talk about Augustine, he lived such a sinful life before Christ. But he didn't pretend to be righteous. He wrote his confessions, and his confessions have been around since the year 300. We all know of his faults because he was so adamant about not showing himself as the righteous man, about showing himself as the sinner, about being honest with his faults, that Jesus probably looked at him and said the same thing. That he probably praised him for his sincerity. And this is just so beautiful to see the different things that could have influenced this great saint. And he says that the reference to the fig tree carries a deeper meaning. In the Old Testament, Adam and Eve used fig leaves to cover themselves after sinning, symbolizing shame and sin. And this is in Genesis 3:7. Jesus once cursed a fig tree that bore leaves but no fruits. And that's in Mark 11:12-14. Representing empty appearances without true righteousness. When Jesus mentioned Nathanael being under the fig tree, it also symbolized being under the shadows of death, a life still marked by sin. Yet Jesus indicated that he had seen Nathanael even before calling him, showing divine knowledge. If we let him, he'll do the same for us. When Nathanael realized that Jesus saw him under the fig tree, despite Jesus not being physically present, he understood that Jesus was not just a man, but divine. Nathanael's recognition for Jesus' divinity was rooted in his supernatural revelation. All right, my friends, that is it for today. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you simply want to connect, you can find me at The Word with Rita. Bye for now.